In my previous video, we have looked at this new initiative from Anthropic called Glasswing, or they call it Project Glasswing. So they have introduced this Project Glasswing because they think the model that they have created a new model called Claude Mythos, and they think this model is so much better when it comes to cybersecurity. So because this model is so much better for cybersecurity, this can be used for two different purposes, right? It can be used for defensive work, but it can also be used for offensive. What is this? Defensive means we basically take the ability of this model to look for vulnerabilities in our software and we patch them. We are not going to exploit them, we are going to actively fix them. So even if a bad actor discovers them, they'll not be able to take advantage of them because we would have fixed those issues by the time they discover it. But if a bad actor has access to the same model like Cloud Mythos, they can also use that to offensive operation. They might be able to discover vulnerabilities in the software using this model's capability. So this is what Anthropic is worried about. They are worried about the model's capability because it is so powerful and it can be used for good use cases as well as for bad use cases. So hacker might be able to discover vulnerabilities in the software much more quickly with this model. So this is a bigger problem, right? So what they are planning to do because of this? Because of this, they're not going to release this model as a generally available model for general public. They're going to give this model only for selective companies who have critical software that this world runs on. For example, Microsoft, IBM, Apple. You can imagine that, most of the softwares that we use are from these giant companies, and if those softwares created by these companies or open source foundations like Linux Foundation has vulnerabilities and that can be exploited using model like Claude Mythos, then it is a bad thing, right? People will be able to exploit and they could even bring the whole world to an end, which is not good. So that is why they say they are taking this step, which is they are only going to allow this model to be used by these companies for defensive operations to start with. But then what they are saying is they are going to introduce some guardrails. Okay, so they're going to introduce guardrails. So the guardrails are going to be designed in a way that even if somebody else comes up with a big model like this, those model can be deployed safely. So we need to be able to safely deploy large models like Mythos. So that is what they are saying they are going to do with this guardrail. So what they are going to do with this guardrail, they are going to make sure even if we have bigger model or better model like Mythos or even bigger models than Mythos, they will not oblige to what a bad actor asks those models to do. If the model is asked to hack open source software or a website, it will not do that. It will stop that bad actor from succeeding from in that activity. It will stop them from doing that. So that is what these guardrails are going to do. So that is what Anthropic says that they're going to develop. They're going to test it with a new model that they are going to release soon, which is basically another version of Opus. So it is going to be something Opus 4.6 plus. It will be a higher version of Opus 4.6, but they're going to deploy this guardrails with that model. And when that model is deployed, this guardrail will also be tested. Hopefully, after the testing, they believe they'll be able to reach a state where they can deploy even bigger models like Mythos or much more powerful models without risking that the bad actor could use it for any offensive activities. So this is what they are saying. And here is my take, okay? So the problem with the software vulnerability, right? So when you take any software is not always uh, bug free. They'll always have bugs. Okay, softwares will always have bugs. If it is a closed source software, then those bugs may not be discovered by people who are interested in software or discovering vulnerabilities. They'll not be able to discover those things because they don't have access to the source code. But if it is open source, because the whole source code is available for someone to look at and understand what is happening, they might be able to find a loophole in it. And if they are a good citizen, they might, they might report that to the actual developer or builder of that software, so it can be patched. But if they are a bad actor, then they might not disclose it, they might keep it as a secret, they might use it to exploit that software when they want to. So, if you think about it, open source softwares are inherently at a disadvantage when it comes to cybersecurity because the source code is available for anyone to look at. It is easier for people to spot vulnerabilities and they might be able to exploit it. It is possible with closed source as well because the source code itself is closed. They are in much better place compared to open source software. So, what Anthropic doing is a right thing in my opinion, because if we just let this model out, people will be able to run it on open source softwares like Linux kernel, or a lot of open source software is out there, right? So they might be able to use it on those softwares, they might be able to discover vulnerabilities, and they might be able to start exploiting it immediately, which is a bad thing. So we definitely want to stop it, and I think Anthropic is taking a right approach and the right step towards that, which is very much welcomed from my side. But at the same time, there is no guarantee that another country, like for example China or some other country who has capacity to develop these kind of models, might not be able to develop this quickly. They might be able to develop it quickly, and if they develop it quickly, they might be able to exploit this. So we don't know whether anyone has already developed such a model or currently developing such a model. So in my opinion, this is actually a race against time. We need to immediately discover all the vulnerabilities in all of the important critical software infrastructure that runs our life on a daily basis, and we need to patch them immediately. So if Anthropic is helping companies to join together and resolve that vulnerability as a group activity, or as a collective activity, which is really good, and I really welcome that. People say many things about these companies and these models. Those things are aside, but in my opinion, the step they are taking is really positive step, and this is very much welcomed. And this is like a race against time, in my opinion. All of these softwares has to be run through this Claude Mythos model. We need to get all the vulnerabilities and we need to patch all of them. So that is the top priority. So that's all I wanted to share. I leave you with that. Thank you.